have 4 panelists here today. We're going to learn a little bit more about U.S. manufacturing in the outdoor industry. And so I'll be introducing them, but first I just wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about OIA's work in terms of Made in America. And at OIA, we have a government affairs team that works on behalf of our member companies to support the policies and initiatives that you all have going on. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is our balanced trade agenda. We have a very diverse portfolio of members and companies, and we have companies that import products here into the U.S., and we also have companies that manufacture here in the U.S., and we want to be a strong supporter to everyone. And so in January of 2013, 2 years ago, we launched the OIA's Made in America Working Group, and that's an informational and educational forum for our companies to come talk about some of the issues that they have and really provide educational resources back to our companies. And to date, in terms of participation, that's open to members and non-members, and we have over 175 companies, including the companies that are sitting here today, participating in that group. So definitely encourage you to stop by and ask me a little bit about it later. So we'll get started. I want to run through and just introduce to you here who I have here. To my left is Michael Batson with Polartec, and then we have Tyson Tittensor with DPS Skis, Joe McSweeney with Cascade Designs, and Tony Ambrosa with Carhartt. And so I'm going to ask each of them to give you a little bit of a background about their company and kind of their commitment to U.S. manufacturing, and then we'll jump into the panel discussion, and I have about 4 questions for them, just kind of about some different aspects of U.S. manufacturing, and then we'll have time for a few questions from you all. So with that, I'll move to some introductions. So Michael, would you like to start us off?
Sure, thank you, Lindsay. My name is Michael Batson. I'm the Global Product Director for Polartec. Polartec was started in Massachusetts back in 1906, so we're of over 100 years of history right now. We have factories in both Massachusetts and in New Hampshire and employ over 700 individuals in the textile industry. We got our start back making wool workwear sweaters, something that Carhartt's very familiar with, as well as wool bathing suits, not that I'd ever want to wear one of those. And we've diversified into other markets, including global military, the outdoor contract furniture market, the medical market, as well as several new areas that are really poised for growth right now to diversify beyond outdoor fabrics. And excited to be here today with the panel.
My name's Tyson Tittensor. I'm with DPS Skis. We're a local ski brand. DPS Skis was started in 2005. We've been known as a pioneer for using composite materials in the skis, one of the first companies to build a carbon fiber sandwich construction ski, and a lot of innovative shapes. In 2012, we started bringing manufacturing from China back to the US. Originally, all of our production was done in China, and it's something we decided it was important to us to control all of our own production and have it done here in Salt Lake City. So we're sort of new to Made in America, and it's been a really gratifying ride for us.
My name is Joe McSweeney. I'm with Cascade Designs. Cascade Designs was founded in Seattle back in 1972 around the Thermarest brand. We've grown since then through innovation and acquisition. We now have the brands Thermarest, MSR, Platypus, Steel Line, Pack Towel, Hummingbird, E-Case. And back in the 70s, it was the natural thing that you would make your own products. In fact, we established a manufacturing company in Ireland back in 1985 to manufacture for the European market. Then in the late 90s, early 90s, when all the other brands started to offshore and start to go to Asia, we didn't make any decision that we weren't going to do that. We just basically, manufacturing never stopped making sense for us. In fact, we've turned it really into an advantage. So at this point, we still manufacture about 80% of our volume in Seattle, in the city of Seattle, and we employ about 550 people, and 300 of those would be engaged in manufacturing.
Great. My name's Tony Ambrosa. Welcome everybody, and good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Carhartt. We were founded just a short 125 years ago by a man named Hamilton Carhartt. And the family of the founding family is still running Carhartt today. Our CEO, Mark Fillade, is the 4th generation family member, and we're still 100% privately owned by that founding family. We have been fortunate enough to be able to maintain U.S. manufacturing since the founding days in 1889. And we still are able to make a lot of our iconic styles. I see one of the most iconic often here at the show, our double front BO1. which is still made in the United States in our factories in Kentucky and Tennessee. And we're very fortunate to have been able to maintain that as we've grown and developed the opportunity to serve workers with hardworking, rugged gear and apparel. And it's great to see you all here today to talk about this subject. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much for introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit of background. So we'll start out with our first question. I think all four of you are really strong, reputable brands in the outdoor industry that outdoor enthusiasts really love and look to for their gear, for their adventures. And a lot of folks are not naysayers, but say that in terms of price point, that it's really hard to build a successful business model off of manufacturing in the US, and obviously you have some great success stories. So if you could share a little bit about how you've done that in terms of price point, and if you have any recommendations towards brands in the future that are looking to manufacture here in the US. So we'll start with you, Michael.
Sure. So I think first and foremost, it's all about having innovative products. If you're just a Me Too manufacturer, you're going to quickly get involved in that race to the bottom where the discussion falls to price every time. But if you can continue to innovate and come out with the best new fabric or the most innovative new garment design that's not out there that fits some unmet need in the marketplace, you can win, and you can win at almost any price point. And we find that the best brands out there differentiate themselves through that design, and they have the good, better, best offering, and there's always a place for that best, that leading tip of the spear product to take you out there and get your brand known. And that's where Made in America really is a great fit. Innovated in America, developed in America, and cut and sewn in America. And that story works over and over again. We see people going out there and just coming back to that message because that low price, Me Too product just doesn't work. Everybody's tired of that. So.
Yeah, it's a great point, Michael. I think for us, we're primarily a product company, and we're one of the more expensive skis out there, and we really pride ourselves in making the very best product that we can, and we have a really brilliant product team designing innovative products. But when we were sending those to China, we had IP issues, we didn't have complete control over it, and by bringing it in-house, we had control and the ability to iterate and develop new products that are going to help us in the marketplace. We can be talking about a ski on a Tuesday, we can be building it on Thursday, and we can be skiing it on Saturday. The iteration, when you do that in China, it just takes several weeks. Now we're able to get a new product up and running really quickly. And with us being focused on that high end of the market, the margin is less of a concern, and the bigger concern is being the most innovative brand out there.
So same story with Cascade Designs. If you're going to manufacture, you have to compete in the premium section of the market. But in our experience, your prices don't have to be ridiculously high. You don't have to ask. In fact, we don't ask our consumers to pay more just because of Made in USA. We ask them to pay as much or more for a better product. Obviously, the key to being able to do that is to understand the customer. But then once you understand what the customer needs, when you do your own manufacturing, the range of options available to you to create the functionality for a superior product are much more. And what that translates into in our case is we don't just make the products, we make the machines that makes the products. And then you have an awful lot more options in terms of how you can add functionality and tweak it. The rapid design cycle that Tyson mentioned, where you can iterate a product much more quickly when you've got your manufacturing downstairs, that helps to create a better product. Another advantage is because your supply chain is much shorter, you can manufacture closer to demand, so you carry less inventory, so that also helps your margin. But I would say that manufacturing in the US right now is a tight margin business. So for instance, Cascade Designs, I think we do a lot less marketing, for example, than imported brands because we choose to do manufacturing, and we have to turn that into our advantage. We can't afford to do everything.
Yeah, I agree with the rest of the panel. I mean, really, when we think about it, it's first and foremost the product. If you're in a commodity category, you're going to have a tough time. And we certainly, in the world of outdoor retailer, our pricing is not premium, but in the world of workwear, we are typically going to be the more expensive choice for a lot of folks. And thankfully, the DNA, the integrity, we just say the promise. At the end of the day, it's going to be a little more to reach for it, but the idea and the promise we have is that it'll last longer. And so it comes down to that product integrity and that promise, and then the brand. We're very fortunate to have a founding family that has really done a great job of maintaining the integrity of the brand, and that's allowed us to continue to serve and offer up Made in USA styles as well.
Thank you. All right, next I'd like to talk a little bit more about the impact that you've all had on your community and your backyard, whether it's the city that you're manufacturing in or the state, and kind of talk a little bit about how you'd characterize or quantify the impact that you've had on your local economy and your community and why that's important to you as a business.
I think that's immensely important. If you look at Lawrence, where we're headquartered today, it's an area that has well over double-digit unemployment. Back at the turn of the century, it was a thriving textile community. It was one of the highest standard of living places throughout the state of Massachusetts. But over time, we lost those jobs. Many of those jobs went first to Mexico, then offshore, and we never fully recovered. But today, what's left at Polartec is really a thriving business segment. And if you walk around the plant of 700 people, we have fathers, sons, and grandparents from the same family all working there together, and they work there because their parents work there, and their children want to follow in their footsteps. And that's something you take personal and take to heart as a product developer or as a manufacturer. You want to make sure that they can provide for their children and keep them working in this field that you grew to love, and your parents set that legacy for you before them. So I think it's immensely important, and it's important to the community. We must keep continuing to grow that as we go forward.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most gratifying parts of my job is when we bring in an employee and they really rise to the occasion and really take their job seriously and excel and do something special. We have a lot of people working in manufacturing who do things I could never do. Really, really incredible craftsmen, and it's really amazing to go over there and watch them building skis and look at the final product and know the names of the people who built that ski, know the person who laid it up, and for the most part, they're probably people I've skied with, and they're part of my ski community. I consider them all to be friends, and the sense of satisfaction of looking at a product and knowing exactly who put it together, and knowing that they care as a fellow skier and someone who believes in what we're doing, that's a really incredible feeling for me.
So our backyard is Seattle. It's pretty big, and we don't, thankfully, have an unemployment problem. So the way I see it is obviously the impact is in the employment, but I feel that Cascade Designs offers a different range of diversity and opportunity that wouldn't otherwise be available without manufacturing. We have a lot of little ethnic communities within our manufacturing operations. You'll notice that as you go around, you say, wow, everyone here is from Ukraine, everyone here is from Puerto Rico or wherever. That works really well for us, and it works very well for them. They don't have to all have English as a first language. I think we allow a tenure in employment, and when I say tenure, I mean 10, 20, 30, getting on the 40 years now, to people of a skill level who wouldn't otherwise be able to create that kind of permanence for themselves. And I meet people and they talk about sending their kids to college, and I can't help but think that if they weren't in a company like ours, that would be a difficult thing for them to do. There's a lot of opportunity for career development. Our VP Operations, who's here somewhere, started on the shop floor. We get people who might start in manufacturing, ending up as product designers, people who started repairing products, ending up in marketing. And last but not least, then the sustainability. When I think of impact, I always think of sustainability. And we know our impact. We're held to a very high standard by the city of Seattle. In fact, recently they just figured out that the fish drink the water that we put out, and we eat the fish, so the standards are getting even higher, and that's not a problem. We're happy to meet that.
That's great. Well, we're not based in Seattle. We're based in Detroit, and while Detroit's a phenomenal city that's really made an incredible comeback, we're very proud to be headquartered there with 400 plus employees. And that's been a big part of our DNA, always being based there. But we're also, our manufacturing in Kentucky and Tennessee is really located in very small towns. A town like Irvine, Kentucky, that the townspeople came together during the Depression, and they built a factory for Carhartt. And Carhartt, we still operate out of that factory today. And we have some folks out of that facility, as well as in our Camden and Edmonton facilities in Madisonville, that have been with us for 30, 40 years, helping manufacture goods out of those locations. But also, for us, when we think about that, I mean, we certainly are very, very fortunate to be in small towns like that, we're an important part of those towns. But it's also further into the supply chain. You know, we source a great deal of our fabric from suppliers based here in the United States, and that means a lot to them. And then the amount of U.S. grown cotton we use could cover 16,000 plus football fields. So it's the overall thinking, and then beyond that, I mean, it's something I think all of us take great pride in. It's the smaller retailers that we all work with so closely. And we've heard, being a brand as old as we are, how we've been fortunate to help some of those retailers. We have some that go back to 1892 when Hamilton Carhartt threw horse and buggy, and they're still in business today with selling Carhartt. But we've been able to help them send generations of their family to college or buy the building that they're in, that they operate their store out of. So that's what we like to think about.
Great, thanks. So kind of going off what you're saying, Tony, I'd like to switch a little bit into sourcing and supply chain. And I think one question at OIA as a trade association that we get asked often is how to source materials and how to find the materials that you need for your products. So if you could talk a little bit about all of you, how you've been able to source the materials that you need and kind of what resources and networks you used. And Michael, I know for you this might be a little bit different. And so maybe kind of how you connect to folks that sew the end product of Polartec. So if you just want to start there and talk a little bit about the networks that you have in terms of sourcing and how you've been able to work through that.
Sure. So in this challenging environment, even for us at Polartec, we have to source the raw materials that go into the fabrics, whether that be the yarns that are used to make the fabrics or the chemical intermediaries that are used in the different processes. But I think the crux of the matter and how we dealt with that and how we deal with that is you have to find who are going to be your partners going forward. There's 100 different companies out there selling yarn, and maybe half of them won't be here in 50 years or 5 years for that matter. So it's very important that you pick your partners, find people that have common interests and common synergies with your company and are really focused on innovation. And partnership is just not a word. It's truly when you get together, you share the pain of development, you work together, you lift the kimono a little bit and show what you're going to do and how you're going to work together. And that takes time, but once that's done, it really positions you well to continue to develop and to continue to innovate and work together. So.
For us, with Made in America being a new thing and us developing our factory just within the last few years, sourcing's pretty fresh in my mind. It all started with our Spoon project. We built a concept ski that's now a production ski, and there really wasn't a contract factory in the world that could build it. So we built it in Peter's garage. Peter Turner, one of our co-founders, has a really deep experience in the ski industry, a lot of contacts, and we leveraged a lot of those contacts to just buy enough materials to build a single ski in a garage. Even though we were building a lot of skis overseas, it was a ski that couldn't be done over there. So when we completed that ski, we knew we had enough contacts to put the pieces together, and we knew that those contacts could scale up with us. And that was the genesis of it all. But it's always with us wanting to be on the cutting edge product-wise. It's something that we're always looking at is new contacts and what are the best suppliers for the best raw materials.
So sourcing is a huge aspect of product development. In fact, we consider it to be fully half of the whole product development effort. And we have a bunch of strategies in terms of creating the sources we need. So first of all, we form strategic partnerships. So the way we look at it is our product development innovation happens in parallel with us and our suppliers. So we have to know the suppliers and be connected to them such that when we start to innovate on a new idea, they're innovating at the same time. And, we're trying to achieve something with, let's say, how we would assemble or fabricate, and they're trying to help us achieve that in terms of how they create their materials. You have to be prepared to become vertically integrated. So, for example, we cut and form all the foam that goes into the thermarest ourselves. There's just too much variety there for us to get that done at the foam manufacturer. We actually have a kiln. So we fire the ceramic filters that go into the MSR Waterworks filters ourselves. The other trick you can use is you can piggyback off other industries. So auto, for instance, is a well-established and still strong manufacturing sector in the US. So for example, the mag bodies in our reactor stove are manufactured on the same lines where they make fuel manifolds for the auto industry. And all of that can have its downside. So when the auto sales recovered after the Great Recession, probably around 2011, our production space got taken. We had to try and get it back. We end up single sourced. We can't form 3 or 4 strategic partnerships to get something done. We form one. And then if something goes wrong, as can happen, you end up with a supply interruption. So it's a constant effort, constant vigilance, and is not at all as easy as it would be if America was still a predominantly manufacturing country.
No, it's true. I mean, our team is constantly, assessing, evaluating. But again, being 125 years old, I guess that would be one of the benefits. Partners like Polartec, we have so many long-standing relationships, trusted, valued relationships that we've been able to maintain over the lifespan of the business, and really created some symbiotic relationships with folks to be able to maintain the base that they have here in the States over the years as well. So, it's constantly reevaluating and assessing the opportunities and the options that you have in this country.
Great, thank you. So our last topic will be talking a little bit about consumer demand and kind of how consumers see your products and Made in America. And at OIA, we also have a consumer insights team, and that team's actually been working on doing a little bit of research into looking at social media and the conversations that are happening in social spaces about Made in America and how folks feel about Made in America. And we're kind of finding that Made in America, that phrase and flag, is really resonating a lot with baby boomers, which is not surprising, just kind of that mentality and aspect, and that the millennial generation is actually looking more towards the impact on the local economy, and that it's resonating a little bit more in terms of, made in Colorado or made in Seattle. And so I'm interested kind of from your perspective, obviously again as successful brands here, how you perceive what consumers are looking for and how you've been able to successfully market to them, and how that's worked for you. So, Michael.
Sure. One example I could give is we do quite a bit of U.S. military business as a company. And fortunately for us, all that business has been strengthened by the Berry Amendment, which required all the products to be made in America, all the way back to the yarn level. But as we went forward and developed that product portfolio, and that got out there and got known well, that category of products really moved its way and migrated into the other markets that we serve. So now in the workwear space, for example, folks wanted that same layering system made in USA with those same features and benefits and innovation behind it for the workwear market that was not supported by the Berry Amendment. And we sell quite a bit of those fabrics today. And then going full circle to our outdoor market where we've cut our teeth and done so well. We've had product innovations within the military space, for example, the Alpha product that's now migrated into the outdoor market, and that again is made in USA, and people want that authentic product. So it's all about, it's about your brand, it's about your authenticity, and those things that you bring. You can't be a poser in this market. You've got to, you've got to be real, and we hear that more and more, and it continues to drive our success.
When we decided to bring production back to the US, it was not necessarily a marketing decision, it was just something we felt, philosophically we wanted to have control over the R&D, we wanted to have control over the production, and we wanted to control our IP. So the marketing benefits have been sort of a nice side benefit. We did hear a lot of pushback from consumers about, we don't want to buy a high-end product that's made overseas. And we have been able to silence that pushback from the end users. And I think a lot of people really appreciate the craftsmanship aspect and appreciate that we're down there every day and that the people building the product are skiers. And I think that also resonates with kind of the millennials and that 20-something skier really wants to know that their ski was built by a skier, and it's been a really nice thing for our brand.
So the most common consumer feedback we get on our products being made in America is, wow, I never knew that was made in America. We haven't really done a great job marketing it. We've been so focused on competing on the basis of performance and functionality that we have definitely at the consumer level undermarketed the Made in USA advantage. I was skeptical in the past about it as an advantage. I think it's got some cachet, but as Tyson said, it's a nice to have. I wouldn't recommend that anybody, well, certainly not somebody like Cascade, unless you're really strong on branding and marketing, don't get into Made in USA on the basis that the marketing advantage is what's going to pull you through. You really have to turn manufacturing into an advantage. We did experiment with Made in Seattle. It didn't really resonate. I think it's very relevant possibly for a startup, or if we were in a business which was associated with Seattle, like timber or fish or something like that. But no, we're much more comfortable on the Made in USA national platform. The one community that absolutely values Made in USA is the retail community. Retailers, like any business, are trying to create employment, and I think they resonate with the fact that that's primarily what we're trying to do as well, is create employment. And when we take retailers into our plants in Seattle, they're blown away by the manufacturing, they hear about it, but when they actually see it happening, it amazes them. And also I think they're very impressed by the way that the whole innovation cycle happens in one place. You got the idea through to the design, right through to the finished product coming out the door, basically with the one team.
I think by and large, in totality, we find it first comes down to our consumers looking for rugged, long-lasting gear that works, first and foremost. And they're evaluating it based on that value. And then we do have segments where they want to know what's made in the USA. And they absolutely want to understand that, and they really care a lot about that. And in our business too, we certainly have a lot of folks who are, our manufacturing facilities in the US are unionized. And we have a lot of folks who are in unions that want to find USA products. So we've worked hard to make sure that we identify all of the products. So on our website, we section it out. We make it very easy. We're very transparent about it to make sure that they know. And then beyond that, when we think about the craftsmanship movement with millennials, we absolutely see this, and we're celebrating it, quite honestly. We love that there's a generation coming up that is really embracing craftsmanship. We recently partnered with a brewery in Michigan on a Carhartt beer when we turned 125. It was meant to be a small celebratory partnership where we literally worked from the farm all the way into the brewing process in crafting a special beer in partnership with them. And then we went on a tour, and we went and we met and we had beers with people who are craftspeople. And we heard their stories and what they care about and how important it is to them. So that generation and the way people care about how things are made is a phenomenal movement to be a part of and see.
Great, so who wants a Carhartt beer now?
Thanks.
A few folks, all right, almost happy hour, not quite. So that concludes kind of the panel discussion that we have. I want to make an opportunity for you folks if there are questions in the audience. So we do have a microphone. Do we have any questions out there for our panelists about US manufacturing at all? Sure, hold on 1 second. All right.
My question is whether you are thinking about preparing for organic claims under Global Organic Technical Standard, or GOTS, as a way of participating in enabling a claim for your product as organic or GOTS certified.
So have you done anything in terms of the organic movement, in terms of classification or labeling, to your knowledge?
We're all about recycled. We're big into recycling. We've recycled over 1 billion water bottles for Polartec into our fabrics. So that's one aspect that's similar to where you're talking about. The pure organic, I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an organic manufacturing standard. Thought that only applied to food.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I'm aware of an organic standard as well. We have not heard our consumer come forward asking for that, but I mean, we are very focused. Being a workwear company, it's about efficiency. So we are very, very efficient in terms of zero waste, in terms of the scraps and things like that from our cutting facilities and the recycling we do. But certainly that's something we'll bring up with our sourcing and manufacturing teams.
Great, thanks. Perhaps that will provide some conversation after the panel to talk a little bit further about. Are there any other questions from the audience at all? Sure, right down here.
I'm curious if the time value of money comes into your considerations of how you do sourcing, being that you can turn product a lot quicker here domestically than if you have to deal with freight and shipping and those kind of issues? What are, each of you has a different business model that you work on, but does that factor into the decisions you make about sourcing on the main US side?
So, the money's kind of cheap right now. So in terms of reducing your working capital, it's not a huge factor, but it does reduce your working capital. To me, the biggest advantage is reducing obsolescence, because you can convert your materials, order materials, and convert your materials closer to the point of demand, so you're less likely to have a bunch of obsolete product. If interest rates are higher, you could certainly utilize using your own manufacturing to drop your working capital as well. We're not doing that right now.
So you're more responsive quickly.
Oh, we're way more responsive, yeah. We offer far more flexible terms in terms of allowing retailers to change their orders up to 2 weeks prior to shipping, compared to, and that's all enabled by doing our own manufacturing. Now we offer it for products that we import as well, just have to manage with that, but that's only 20%. Anyone else?
Yes, similar with us. Put a product in a shipping container in China. Might show up in 3 weeks, it might show up in 10 weeks. You better plan on 10 weeks, and that means you got to pay for it that far in advance, and it's just money that's sitting in a container in the ocean. So the capital that's tied up in product, that's a huge benefit. And then I think also the obsolescence thing is huge, and we can sort of, we're building skis at our factory today, and we're responding to what's been selling so far this year. You can't do that with outsourced production. And accountants think of inventory as an asset, and I think of inventory as a liability, because everything that's sitting on your shelf is something that could go bad. It's something that could become obsolete, and it's something that you've got your capital tied up in. So anything we can do to reduce inventory is huge, and anything we can do to be responsive to real time to what's going on in the market is also very beneficial for us.
Now, for our customers who manufacture garments in this hemisphere, they can reduce their lead times by about 30 days by buying from our factory in Massachusetts or versus buying from Asia. So that is a big factor. But then you have to look at where all of our customers are. There are some that are in Asia, so for them the reciprocal would hold true. It would be hard for them to bring product over there. But as more and more options become available from the US, I think you'll see more reshoring of the downstream manufacturers coming back to participate in the supply chain here in North America, because that chain is going to stay, it's not going away, and all indications are it's slowly becoming more robust again. So.
All right. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope that you can join me in a round of applause for our panelists. And I encourage you to visit them and ask them further questions. Check out their booths and also their product in the Made in America Product Showcase. Thank you.
Thank you.